This is Michael Blackstone, and today we have the Sheriff Show with Lee County Sheriff Gary Parsons, and this is our last episode of 2021. So, Gary, let's just kind of overview the year, being as it we're at the end of the year. You know, in my opinion, we had 2020. COVID came along in March. It was a blur, and then I almost can't consciously think where the stop and start of 2020 went into 2021, and now we're at the end of 21. It seems like COVID's never really stopped, and then it's starting to back up with these new variants and stuff like that. How have you and law enforcement in the sheriff's office? How you been driving that car?
Well, everything's changed, in the last since the pandemic started. The way we deal with people and what we have to precautions we have to take, and it's not just us; it's the whole world. I mean, you talk to everybody through fiberglass now,
Right.
through what do they call it, plexiglass. So it's just a different time, a different world, but. We've coped just like everybody else and tried to do the best we can to serve the citizens. And, it's been a strange year, too, far as new laws went into effect here in Virginia this year that really affected our ability to do our job. Limited our probable cause to stop vehicles. And, that's one of the biggest things that we do to make drug cases is stop vehicles that have drugs in them. And, the new legislation that went into effect in, I think, March, says that we can't stop for lights out, we can't stop for dead tags, dead stickers, loud exhaust, tinted windows, and so it's really changed the way we have to do business.
How is that? How is it? How much is that changed as far as your deputies on the street? Is it just wipe out their ability completely to go after those kind of folks?
It limits it. It limits it. It's not. Now it's observing driving and things like that. It's the way stops or some other information that you have that would warrant a stop. But we also, just today we made a case with our dog. A vehicle was stopping one of the officers. They called our drug dog out and made a case. So we make cases with the drug dog, and of course we're still doing controlled drug purchases and search warrants and that type of thing.
How being as we kind of jumped onto the drug end of things, how is I know no law enforcement wants to think that there's lots of drugs in the streets, because then there's that connotation of, are you doing your job? And of course we know this is a never-ending fight against illegal drugs and trafficking and stuff like that. You can't win. You just have to hope that you can get ahead in whatever fashion or the other. So specifically on meth, we've just recently reported and reported some stuff out of Sullivan County, Tennessee, Kingsport, where they've got a big 4-day deal on meth and what's doing down there. They've actually nicknamed, the drug cartels have nicknamed Kingsport Meth Mountain. And so there, in some of those reports talking about a lot of the drugs coming in from larger cities, primarily in our area through Atlanta, and coming straight up. And of course, our county, being as we're the beginning of Virginia, we have several. I'm not sure exactly how many points of entry from outside the county, outside the state even, coming in and through Lee County. But one of the things that they said, and the statistics are staggering on the amount of people. A person is dying every 6 days in Kingsport, Tennessee, for meth overdose, and they're saying that these drug folks have gotten away from. They're not making it in their houses anymore. They don't have to worry about blowing up and burning up and doing all that crazy stuff. They're actually, the cartels are bringing it in, and it's cheaper, but it's laced with this fentanyl, and we know that the fentanyl causes problems with the drug dogs and officers who are handling evidence and various things. So, what are you seeing as sheriff in Lee County as far as that kind of stuff? Do we have a pass-through county Are they using these back roads to get into Kentucky and farther north, or?
Well, I'm sure they are, but I mean, a lot of it's coming directly to Lee County. We, along with the federal authorities, busted some people down Rose Hill. That was a pretty big operation, involved several states, and it was a supply chain. A lot of law enforcement administrators will downplay the problem and say, well, it's not that bad in our county or our jurisdiction. Well, people aren't fools. I mean, it's bad. The meth problem's bad.
Right.
I've been here. I was sheriff when the OxyContin thing hit. I just about lost the election because our crime rate went up 200%. It was everybody was on OxyContin, and it was a terrible thing. This is worse. The effects are worse. That's kindergarten stuff compared to this meth problem, and it's a severe problem. And if I could, if I sit here and tell you, it's under control, we got it handled, then I'd be lying to you. And anybody that tells you they can control it or handle it in any other jurisdiction in or around us are lying to you. Because, like you say, I don't want to sound political, but I guess I am. The southern border is wide open, and it's just pouring in. And if you think about it in certain terms, we're not that far from the southern border when you start going through Atlanta and distribution points, and so things happening nationally affect us locally. People need to remember that.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting statistics. The whole legal regulation of pharmaceutical medication, mainly pain pills and opioids, trying to remove a lot of that from the streets, slowed it down, and the projection from the DEA was going to be that heroin was going to be the kind of the lead dog in the illegal drug side of things, but it wasn't. It spiked for just a little bit, and then meth came in, and just really took over the whole deal. And cost factors, the street value on I was reading this thing in that the Times News put out in Kingsport, and that is that the street value on a opioid drug, let's say you're buying a pain pill, going rate it at $1 a milligram, so a 10 milligram hydrocodone, let's say, is $10, and you can buy a gram of meth, which I'm not sure how. I mean, that's a considerable amount, and it's generally laced with fentanyl for almost the same price as you can, the pill, and get more of it and stuff like that. So there's this huge transition, and it's not the people that you think would normally be doing this. Like it's not. They refer to as people living under bridges and homeless, and your strung out drug people on the streets. It's grandmas and grandpas and people of all walks of life. A lot of it is starting from doctors prescribing opioids, and then because of legal regulations cutting them off these treatments, and now the people are physiological dependent, and so they're going in these different directions, and they're getting stuff that's laced with God only knows.
And like I've talked to you before in our interviews, that people that want to get help, there is no help available.
No.
There's no treatment programs available. There's nothing that I can suggest to them. And, and like I say, unless you're a millionaire and you got the money to send somebody far, far away to a program that costs $50,000, the common man like us, there's nothing out there for you.
Frontier Health is reporting that, and I don't remember the exact stat, but in 2018 they were getting around 60 patients, hits, whatever, in their organization. And this past year, in 2020, I don't think they've got their 21 stats in yet, but they had almost 60,000. So just in a few short years, you've gone just thousands of more people that are on that. They're talking about changing Roan Mountain down there into some kind of a rehab thing that they can control and all that. I think they got some kind of a work camp.
Well, go out any of us around here go out in a public place, and it's a shame, but you can identify the people on meth immediately. You see them at the Walmart. You see them at,
Right.
you see the condition they're in. I mean, it's obvious to everybody, and it's really sad. People that we all have known for years to see the condition that they've gotten in. It's
So what's the 22 projection for the sheriff's office in your ever going, combat against that?
well, we preach for resources all the time. There's grants out there, but the thing is, it's the federal government and the state puts such restrictions on the grants that you can't use them for the things you need to use them for. I need manpower. I need equipment. They'll put out grants for community policing and things like that, and put all these crazy restrictions in them that you can't even interpret what the grant means. So I think everything's just got so complicated that it needs to be more basic. Here's the money. We certainly don't care to clarify what we're using it for, but let us use it for what our needs are.
Right. And I think overall there's pretty standard needs in law enforcement, but there's also that area driven. There's some things that big metropolitan cities may need that we don't necessarily need in a more rural environment here in Lee County.
Yeah, so we answer. I think on an average we actually go to 30 calls per 24-hour period. That's where an officer actually responds personally. That's besides the fact we serve warrants, we serve papers, we escort funerals, we card businesses. We do a host of things, with school zones, and plus we have to work drug cases. I could take my entire department and put them just working drug cases and stay busy, doing that. But it's just a manpower problem. I've just got so many people to do the job, and
how many actual people, staff, do you have assigned to just working drugs?
I've got a drug task force agent that's assigned, and he works with the drug task force, but that's someone that's assigned exclusively to drugs. Now,
So-
not to say these road officers don't make traffic stops and produce his drug cases, but for someone's designated is just my drug task force officer.
Which means he's tied into his backup and resources to the Southwest Regional
That's right,
Task
and
Force.
he's tied, and which is the Southwest Virginia Drug Task Force is basically through the state police, which means there's terrible amount of red tape, that you have to do, a lot of paperwork, reports, and it's kind of so much bureaucracy there, it slows down the process.
Slows down to funding, I would imagine.
But I got good people. They do the best they can, but I know people out here get frustrated. Believe me, we get frustrated too, and we get frustrated with these people. And now they've created guidelines. I was just talking to my chief deputy a while ago. We went to Indiana and got a guy because he had violated probation. There was extradition. Brought him back, and the magistrate set a $1,200 bond. I drive all the way to Indiana, pick a guy up, bring him back, and they set a $1,200 bond. I mean, one hand don't know what the other hand's doing. It's ridiculous. So,
How does that tie in to the court system? Is it a fall off between actual on the street law enforcement versus prosecutorial area versus judge and sentencing, and then the after fact? Are there big Grand Canyons between those things?
Well, no, I mean, I've got a good relationship with the prosecutor. We get along well. So a lot of the things are the new laws that went into effect. Like probation violations, until last summer, there was some discretion. Now it's like first violation, 14 days is the most you can get, no matter what the violation is. And, they've watered down, they eliminated capital punishment right before this young officer was killed up in Big Stone. So, he wasn't eligible for that. And they're softening the laws when they should need to be tightening them down. So.
Right. What's your opinion of our bordering counties? I know that's a I'm not putting you on the spot in a dangerous area, but all the sheriffs around are politically elected, and but then they're charged with constitutional enforcement. What's your opinion of bordering stuff? I mean, and specifically speaking, let's go in the direction of Wise County. Wise County seems like just over our Lee County to Wise border going into Big Stone. Officers shot and killed, Norton, had the police chief shot and injured real bad, had stabbings, had stabbings and shootings, officer related, had this armed robbery of a motel. I mean, it seems like right over the hill we got all kinds of mayhem going on. What's your interaction, or what are you telling your guys
Well,
where this is concerned?
I mean, we're just fortunate that it's not occurring here, but you have to consider too that Wise County has, you know, almost double the population and double the businesses and establishments, and so, and they have a much bigger tax base than we do, which they have a lot of officers, but they have the funding to do it. You know, they supplement all their officers. They get them extra money from local. We're not able to do that. It's not our board's, you know, fault. It's just not the money there to do it.
Right.
But you know, I've got a good relationship with the officers around the county and officers around us, and you know, everybody comes to everybody's aid when there's a problem.
So 2022, what's the number one thing, your action with the general public? What message you want to put out going into 2022?
Well, we're gonna, with the manpower we have available, we're gonna get to you and serve you as quickly as we can. We're gonna be aggressive on drug charges and do everything we can to take drug dealers off the streets. And you know, I tell people when I go to community meetings, if you call us, I hope we're close and we can get there pretty quick. But you know, don't be naive and think just that we're going to be there in 15 minutes, because geographically we're spread out and we may not be there for 30 or 40 minutes. So you know, plan that into how you deal with situations. I don't say that to be cold and non-concerned. I'm very concerned, but I want people to understand, because of the layout of the county and the amount of officers, you know, we may not be very close. So.
I think it's realistic thinking that, you know, we understand that there's 400 square miles of
Yeah.
Lee County and only so many designated officers on any given shift, which means realistically, you know, you got to be patient and let things happen. And
Sometimes it works
things.
out. Sometimes we're right there. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
But I always tell people to be prepared for it not to work out, just
Right.
in case.
Well, Gary, it's been a great year. Thank you for being on our, you know, and being the best part of the sheriff show as the sheriff.
Right.
And we'll look forward to a new year.
Thank you.
Thanks.